3 o'clock. I will call this meeting to order. Mr. Perkins has agreed to lead us in the prayer and the pledge, and we invite you to join us.
Almighty God, thank you for this beautiful weather, for all the people who participate in this process, and thank you, Lord, that we seem to be making progress in the battle against COVID. We pray that before long we can take down these plastic walls between us, remove these masks, and get back to a normal, healthy lifestyle. We thank you for all you do for us and ask your guidance and direction as we make decisions for this community. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Perkins. And we see these lovely plants from Beulah. Mr. Roberts, would you tell us about these plants? Because we're going to need to move them.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The plants which you see in front of you are courtesy of the Beulah Middle School Agricultural Department. They use our compost out there, and I work with them closely in their education programs, and we have composting plants, which we teach the young students about the elimination of chemicals and fertilizers into our soil by the product that we use. And they wanted you as board members to have some of their hanging plants, and Leanne Jenkins is the ag teacher and an administrator of that program, and she wanted you guys to have that. And Madam Chairman, if you don't mind, may I move yours to the left a little bit?
I was going to suggest that we all put them
great.
next
If you don't
to our
mind, you can
seats,
take it
yes.
down, because I can't see your faces on there. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, if you'll just remove them. And Mr. Roberts, if you would extend our thank you to the class and to the teacher. We appreciate it. Okay, thank you. We come now to the adoption of the agenda, and I wanted to add one item under new business, South Bay HOA. Does anyone else have any additions to the agenda? Ms. Campbell.
Yes, I wanted to add update on Carondelet Drive issues.
Under unfinished?
Under unfinished business, yes.
Okay. Mr. Williams?
Yes, Madam Chair, I wanted to, while we're doing that, I want to pull an item from the committee, ECUA, Saturday.
I think we can do that when she does her report. We'll recognize you then. And Ms. Campbell, you heard it say, okay.
I'm sorry, I had
When you make your report, he wants to pull an item.
okay, I had a couple other
Okay, go ahead. I'm
unfinished
sorry.
business. Update on intern from UWF. I had a student call me today. Just wanted to, I don't know if that would go under, that'd go under new business.
That's probably new, yeah.
And then under unfinished business, update from the lobbyist.
Yeah. I see no more lights. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
What item was that, Mr. Johnson?
You are 13A, update of Carondelet, and 13B, update of lobbyist, and 14B, intern from UWF. And I was doing 14A, South Bay Homeowners Association.
Okay.
Got it?
And the item he wanted pulled?
We'll do that
Okay,
during your
just wait.
report.
All right.
Okay, is there a motion to accept, to adopt the,
Motion to accept as amended.
there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded, please vote. And it passes 5-0. We have no public hearings. Next comes the open forum, and I have one person who wishes to address us, Mr. Jerry Price. Mr. Price, if you will come to the podium and press the speak button so you will be recorded. And just give it. Please leave it on if you're comfortable doing that. Press your speak button. We want to record what you say. No, just press it so it lights it. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
There
Now
we
we
go.
can hear you.
Today, I'm here in front of you because of a problem that's been going on for 2 years. It's trivial, and it should have been something that was taken care of years ago. I feel that your supervision, your management that's in place uses policy to escape doing their job. The job is that they come, the trash people, they come and they pick up trash at the residence of 3218 Purcell Lane. And you have a couple of piles of sticks, limbs from the backyard that have been piled out front to be taken away. And the gentlemen are all fine gentlemen. You've got a good group of people that want to work. The quality of work that they do is very poor. The things that they have to use to do their job is little to really inefficient. I've seen that they had a pitchfork, and that's to pick up bigger stuff and throw it in the back. In my 20s, I worked on trash route. We had a scoop shovel and we had a leaf rake. And we worked for a private organization that was concerned about their customer base. They were concerned about creating more customers. And when they left the area where those trash cans were at, it was clean. Wasn't a mess left out in the road to go down, in this case, to a storm sewer, 75 feet down the road, only to be plugged up. Now this road that this address is on, it's on an incline. There is a spring up at the top of the addition, and it comes out and it floods the road. This water probably gets 1 to 4 inches high throughout the whole road going down to that storm sewer. Anything that's in, I've seen trash bags go floating down to this storm sewer. That's how much force you're talking about. It's going to rain 2 times this week. We've had some pretty good rains already. I don't know how to get across that ECUA needs to make some policy changes. A leaf rake and a scoop shovel are simple, not very high cost items to put on a truck to help the guys do their job efficiently. You got guys on the back of a trash truck making $9 an hour, $18,100 a year. All of you make $30,000, $40,000. They're doing your job so they can create a room for you to sit in a chair, and you can't change policy. That's really sad, looking at every one of you and thinking that you're going to leave a bunch of limbs and trees out in the road just because you don't have a leaf rake or a scoop shovel to clean up the mess. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Price. And there may be some questions if you'd like to wait there, if you don't mind. Ms. Campbell, your light is on. Did
Oh,
you
no,
wish-
I'm sorry.
Mr. Stevens.
So, and this question, this may be for you, Mr. Woody. Do we have leaf rakes or scoop shovels on the back of our trucks? Or what, I guess just what are the standard maintenance tools that we keep on the back of our trucks?
That's not a discussion I've had with Randy per se. So I'm limited to my observations. Mr. Price and I were just talking shortly before the meeting, so I haven't had a chance to talk with Randy personally. I am certainly aware that they do carry the small pitchforks, like you say. I've observed those, but I can't say I've witnessed rakes and shovels. So I'll have to talk to him about it.
Okay, thank you. I mean, if you could just get us some information on that whenever you find out the particulars on what tools we do have back there. I'd just be curious. Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Price, so you're saying just with that increase in equipment, you can see the improvement in the quality of the job that they're doing based upon no other issues?
And you may respond, Mr. Price.
The gentlemen that are working on the back of these trash routes, they work in ambient temperature in the winter and the summer. It might be a few more things that they have to use. The leaf rake and the scoop shovel would cut down on the amount of time that each stop takes. And what I'm hearing from Mr. Rudd and Mr. Kyle is that over a period of time, Pensacola has increased their amount of people that live here. So you got more houses. They have not increased their amount of trucks that they've put on to cover this increase of people. But what they look at instead is they try to fill the truck up with the amount of customers that they have, or put on more customers to get a full truck and then take it to the sanitation dump and dump it. That's fine and dandy if you want to look at it that way. But using the excuse that we have too many people to spend that much time cleaning up a mess that they've caused in the first place on the road by carrying stuff out there to put in the back of the truck. It's their responsibility to clean up that road, not the yard, the road.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Ms. Campbell?
I will say, I know exactly what you're talking about with the residue that's left underneath, piles. But I also see Mr. Rudd and Mr. Kyle's point. We have a budget, and there's not a money tree out in back behind ECUA. We have to live within that budget, and people don't want us to go up on rates, so we try very, very hard not to go up on rates. Now, I don't think it would keep us from buying shovels and rakes by any chance, but it would keep us from having the man hour to clean those streets. So I guess maybe we can get Mr. Rudd to come talk to us about what he needs in order to do this, and then we can go to the people and say, do you want us to spend this much money to clean the residue on the streets after we're done, and your bill go up to, whatever. And I'm just looking at it realistically, and when I talked to Randy about it before, it's like they don't have the man hours, so that's something we need to keep in mind. But I totally understand what you're talking about. I just go out there and sweep mine up after they come, I just take a dustpan out there and sweep it up. But I know, it has been an issue people have called me about, so we probably need to weigh both sides and see how much it would cost to, because we don't want to do it for some and not for all. If we're going to do it, we need to do it for everybody. But I don't think the shovels and the rakes per se are the problem. We could buy those tomorrow, I'm sure, but I think it's more the man hours. When you talk to Randy and Keith, did they say it was man hours that we have so many? We do have a lot more houses, and they're building, I know in my district, they're building 8,000 more houses. So, to take the time in front of 8,000 houses to sweep up after you pick up the pile, that's very timely. So I'm just thinking about the whole thing as the big picture. I know how you feel, because I feel the same way when I go out there after my pile's been picked up. It's like, well, there's still stuff here, but I just clean it up, but it is something we need to weigh all sides of when we're thinking about that. But we can have Randy come and talk to us about, what it would cost to do it and clean up the street. I think I don't know that it'll be cost effective, but it's something to think about. And I appreciate you coming all this way and talking to us about the issue.
May I respond to that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
In my line of work, I'm a union sheet metal worker. And we take quality in the work that we do. And I've traveled around a lot of different states. And I wish these guys could make as much as I've had an opportunity to. They really deserve it. The comments, and I apologize if it sounds rude to you. I don't mean it to sound rude, but it's going to come out that way. You can't sacrifice quality for quantity. It just doesn't work. You can say, excuse here, excuse there, and that's all I'm hearing. We can't afford a leaf rake. We haven't got the time. Can't afford a scoop shovel. I was raised on a farm. Scoop shovel gets a lot done. The argument that you put forth just now is drowning severely. It doesn't hold water. It's an argument that I feel is avoiding the problem. You're making the excuse, leave it out there. Make sure that someone 80, 90 years old has to go out and clean that mess up out of the road that they didn't make. That's what you're saying.
Okay. No. All right, I do want to reply to that. I
Go ahead.
wasn't arguing. I was saying, I think this is what their thoughts are, is that they would have to raise the rates to have the money to hire the staff to do that hour. I hear you loud and clear. I'm not arguing. It is an issue. I agreed to that. I agreed that we do need the shovels and we do need the rakes. What I was saying, and I wasn't arguing, I was saying that we need to go to, during budget, you came at a perfect time because we're doing budget over the next few months. We are going to go to our staff and say, how much more do we have to make the rates for you to do this job correctly? And take that time at every house to sweep up the residue. So we will find that out, and as a board, I think we'll address, if that situation warrants us hiring the staff and stuff that we need to do it. I don't think there's a problem on rakes or shovels at all, and I think I said that before. So I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to get everybody to look at the whole big picture. We can't make a decision here today that says, I'm going to do it. We have to look at the budget and say, all right, we need this much money to get this many people to do this job the way it needs to be done. And I'm happy to do that. It's not an excuse. It's the God's honest truth. If I'm going to do that job and stop at every house, 80,000 homes, and sweep the street after we pick up the residue, we're going to need more man hours. So I need to find out from staff how much man hours we need. So I agree it's an issue. I just haven't had that many people come to me. So I'm glad you came to me. I've had this come a couple of times during my time on the board. So I think we'll talk to our staff and make sure, that everybody understands the issue and how to fix it and how to move forward from there. That would be up to the chairman, sir.
What did you want to say?
I understand that ECUA is up against a lot of hurdles in trying to balance a budget. And it's no different a checkbook that people have at home and trying to make ends meet. And if the ECUA can't come up with something in the way of money that they feel is enough to get the job done, then maybe salaries higher up need to be cut and salaries lower up need to be raised. And if you can't do that, then it's time to privatize it. That's my closing statement.
Mr. Price, if you'll stay, because I did want to say something. First of all, I appreciate you coming, because what you have told us, I hear again and again on the phone. People call me and complain about what you just said. And it's an important issue, because I agree, it's a quality of service issue. You know, and I don't think it's just a dollar issue, although what you said about the salaries down below need to come up, and we need to look at the whole thing as something that I think we realized more than ever during the time of COVID, because we found that the people who were on the front lines in the most danger were the ones at the lowest rung of us. So I think that's an important other discussion. But I don't think this is all about dollars. It's also about policy, and I think you hit it on the head when you said it's policy. I think we ought to look at what other communities are doing. Let's find some communities that do a good job of cleanup, and maybe they have good policies about how the trash is disposed of by the consumer. There might be a better way. When I put palmetto leaves out on the driveway, maybe that's not the best way for me to dispose of things. We have rules about the size of piles and other things. Let's look at what our guidelines are, make it user-friendly, but make our issue having cleaner streets, because that's what we want. We want a cleaner community. And you know, so we ought to look at it holistically. Let's research this issue with some other communities. There are probably some great neighborhoods and communities that are doing it better, and so we don't have to reinvent it. But let's take this seriously and make this part of our budget deliberations. Pardon me? I probably have seen it, but you're welcome to. Yeah.
You can bring it up if you want.
This is what was left out in the road.
Yeah.
This is not
Mr. Price,
one time,
if you'll wait, and
several times.
Mr. Price,
It's been going on for years.
Mr. Price, wait until you're there. We want to record what you say for the record.
This is not just a one-time deal. It's been going on
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah.
We use temporary labor, which is not a bad thing. It saves you money, it saves you insurance, it saves the company money. But it doesn't get the job done right. And still I hear excuses. Today, all I've heard is, thank you. Today, all I've heard is that we're gonna take a look at this. We're not gonna solve it. We're not gonna do anything about it. We're gonna take a look at it. Just get him out the door. That's what I hear coming from this today.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Ms. Campbell? Oh, no. Okay, I have no more pink slips. Mr. Price, thank you for coming today. We invite you to stay if you'd like, or whatever. But I think this is something that we will be taking up. All right, we come now to presentations, and our Recycle Star program, and I've asked Mr. Stevens to pull out a pencil indicating someone who's done a good job of clean community. Just read me the number. Number 16, and that is Willie Durant. So Mr. Durant will get all of the awards and notices and cash bonuses that we give for this. But I will also read the other names of the people who did an equally good job. Alexis Dickey, Anthony Ross, Debbie Bossum, Wendell Lawrence, Ms. Andy Schutt and Larry Legg, Laurie Tackett, Lacey McShane, Deborah Bowen, Iris Ingram, Larry Rowe, Barbara Murray, Anthony MacArthur, Pamela and Rob Dewhurst, George and Betty Bennett, Jennifer Pease, Willie Durant, Sylvia Sims, Jeff Hetty, Kenneth Shaw, Kenneth Vanez, Lena Murphy, Cheryl Stone, Adrian Smiley, and Jackie Van Pelt. Thank you to all of you for what you do for our community. The next item is approval of the minutes of the board meeting of March 23rd. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to the minutes? Ms. Campbell?
Approve.
been moved for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. If there are no corrections, please vote. Mr. Williams? Oh, did you have a correction?
No,
Okay, all right. And it passes 5-0. We come now to the report of the ECUA Citizens Advisory Committee of April 20th, 2021. Ms. Campbell, you are recognized.
Thank you. The Citizen Advisory Committee met on April 20th. We first had an open forum presentation of plaque honoring Mr. Barry Tweedy. It was very nice, and I once again want to thank you, Ms. Benson, for bringing that up. Item F was adoption of General Resolution GR 2121. It was on page 12. General Resolution authorizing acceptance of bid and awarding a contract, authorizing Executive Director to execute a contract with Chavers Construction, Inc. of Pensacola, Florida for $115,710 to install low-pressure force main for Miramar Drive low-pressure sewer expansion project, authorizing transfer and use of funds. Item G was adoption of General Resolution, I'm sorry, and they don't have on here that they passed, but they all passed by a majority. Adoption of General Rule GR 21-22, a general resolution authorizing Executive Director to execute a contract with Brown Construction for Northwest Florida, Inc. for the Tarragona 12-inch water main relocation project and authorizing the transfer of project funds, provide an effective date. Item H was adoption of General Resolution GR 21-23. This was a general resolution authorizing the issuance of a sole source annual emergency services contract for sewer hauling and vacuum tank services for Emerald Coast Utilities Authority facilities and infrastructure. Item I was adoption of General Resolution GR 21-24, a general resolution authorizing acceptance of bid and awarding a contract, authorizing Executive Director to execute a contract with Automation Control Service LLC of Pensacola, Florida for $101,820 to provide a system control panel and variable frequency drive, along with associated integration coordination and a study of the 9-mile booster pump station, authorizing the use of funds from the CIP budget. Item J was adoption of a General Resolution 21-25, a general resolution authorizing the sole source purchase of new valve insertion equipment from Consolidated Pipe Supply Company, Inc. in the amount of $67,105.68 for the Regional Services Department. Item K was adoption of General Resolution GR 21-26. This was a general resolution to approve a proposal and issue a purchase order to Elamec, Inc. for upgrades to the Portalogic automated hardware and software system for the separate hauler access station at the Central Water Reclamation Facility in the amount of $77,864. Item L was the adoption of General Resolution 21-27, a general resolution to establish a new project and authorize a proposal for engineering services by Mott McDonald in the amount of $133,088 for design efforts related to arc flash analysis and breaker coordination at 33 water well and or booster pump locations. Mr. Johnson, I believe you wanted to hold an item, sir?
I think Mr. Williams did.
Mr. Williams, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
yes, Madam Chair, and would like to hold item F, and I just had another question about golf also, or item G.
Item
F, Foxtrot, and item G, are golf.
G, okay. So we will, I'd like to move items H through L, holding items F and G for discussion.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion of these? Mr. Woody, did you want to interject something?
Yes, I would ask that under item N, unfinished business, I'd like to point out that the additional CAC meeting date on May 11th was discussed among board members and CAC members to meet at 2 o'clock, not 3, so I apologize for that error there. That would also follow on the meeting on the 18th, again at 2 o'clock, not 3 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Without objection, we will include that. Okay, so we're voting on items H through L. Any other
Yes.
discussion?
Thank you.
Mr. Perkins?
Now, I know we voted those at 2 o'clock, and it's gonna be tough for me to get here by 2, but I should be here around 2:30 or so, and I suspect some other people may have a little difficulty, so go ahead and start without me.
It won't be the same. Okay, we're voting on items H through L.
I don't know, lately he's been pretty spot on.
I know. And it passes 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, item, you want to?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Item G, I wanted to get back to the discussion we were having on last Tuesday as related to Beach Haven. If we could break down Beach Haven, because I have the same concerns about Inslee, and I want to know project cost, how we're getting it done in terms of phases, and how we may be able to stamp Inslee with a CIP to get it done in the same fashion.
Mr. Hayden, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Okay, there's a lot of questions, so let me try to,
So if you could start with the total cost of Beach Haven, and then how many phases does it take in to get that project completed?
so for Beach Haven, I'll have to get those total costs with you. I'm not sure for the total cost for Phase 1. Originally, Beach Haven was separated, I think, into 5 or 6 phases. And that is, we jumped in on that project with the county, coordinated with the county, because when you install the stormwater drainage system, it makes sense to go ahead, and you're tearing up the roads and wreaking havoc in that area, because that's just the nature of construction of that type. It makes sense to go ahead and put in sewer at that time. The thing with, when you combine phases, costs for us went up significantly because you're combining 2 or 3 phases into one. I don't remember the cost for Phase 1. For Phase 2, which we are trying to jump in now, because the cost came back, I believe, at $11 million, or over $11 million for the total project. That includes stormwater drainage and sanitary sewer. I believe the county opted to break that up into into 2 separate phases now too. They advertised them for bid, and they should be opening bids here soon. So I don't know, right now where that's going to pan out. We did have some CDBG money that was granted to ECUA to help offset some of the costs for construction there. There were some DEP grant funds that were awarded to the project because it was both a sanitary sewer and a stormwater project. And so there were some stipulations there as far as, when the money needed to be spent and things like that. So we had to make that a priority. If we wanted to go ahead and get sewer installed for those projects, we had to make that a priority. And unfortunately, we had to pull money from other places where we would have liked to have moved forward, and one of those was Airway Stockdale. The other project is going to be South Beach Haven, which is south of Gulf Beach Highway. That will be another phase, and right now it's all in one. And forgive me, I don't remember the parameters. I wanted to say it was Fairfield Drive at the intersection of Gulf Beach Highway eastward to, I believe, where Patton Drive or Sunset Boulevard is with Gulf Beach Highway. So the South Beach Highway, that is a very large area. We will likely have to break that up into a few different phases. Right now, we have part of that area included with our Navy Point Phase 4B project. And we're coordinating with the county there to also have stormwater, their stormwater part of the project included with ours. So what I need to do, it sounds like for the board, for the CAC members too, is provide you all with an overall map that shows our Beach Haven area, because it has changed over time. You know, again, we went from 6 phases down to 3, and now even that is being broken up again, just because the costs are coming in so high, and we just have to take more bite-sized chunks out of it to get it done. So that's Beach Haven. I know it's not a very good explanation, or I know you wanted costs. I will get you costs as well and provide that for what we've done so far and what we're projecting in the future.
Okay. Now, talk to me about Stocksdale Airway as you can see accomplishing that project in phases and cost.
Yes, sir. I believe the original, if I may, Madam Chairman, I believe the estimated cost for that originally was several years ago. Came in at about $3 million, $3.5 million. The project has expanded in scope to capture more of the area. The force main that is associated with the lift station for that project has to be constructed and extended, so that has increased cost, and so the estimated project cost now is in excess of $5 million. We did not have that in the original budget. We're proposing to add that, or add some to that budget this coming fiscal year to cover the total cost of construction. But what I would like to do is, because construction costs, material costs have gone up quite a bit, on the order of magnitude 30%, and some materials are now costing 50% more. So I anticipate when we go out to bid, I want to break this up into 2 phases. When we go out to bid, we're going to see, I don't want to have sticker shock, but with the volatility of the materials market today, no telling what we're going to see. We're going to try our best to nail down a cost estimate that's good. But when we break that up into 2 phases, we'll do 1 phase anticipated this coming fiscal year 22. And then, you know, hopefully we can get started on the next phase for that in the same fiscal year, or perhaps delay it another year. But we're going to do what we can. As far as, you know, having the project documents and all ready for bid, we have an easement issue that we're trying to work out right now with the county. And as soon as we can get that worked out, I believe we'll be ready to go to bid. The design is pretty much done, so we'll be ready here soon.
Madam Chair, so if I understand, you answered my follow-up question to say that you're projecting to go to work on that project in fiscal year 2022?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Perkins?
Yeah, a couple of things I was thinking about, Mr. Hayden was making his remarks, is that, man, costs are getting expensive. $62 a sheet for plywood right now. Don't put a roof on a house right now. I mean, you'll go broke trying to do that. It's just outrageous. And then the other thing, I don't know if any of y'all, my fellow board members, read online. There's something called Florida Politics, and it gives you an update on what's going on in the Florida legislature and in state politics. And I looked on there today and saw $10 million in water and sewer projects coming to the Panhandle. Panhandle scores big, $10 million coming to the Panhandle. I'm like, oh, good. Let me see what's in there for us, you know, what we're getting. I don't know how they do it, but nothing from Santa Rosa County west is in there. I don't know how the county commissioners in Okaloosa and Panama City and Bay County team up with their legislators, or what goes on, but their legislators are bringing home $10 million in water and sewer projects, and ours have squadoosh, you know. And I know Alex Andrade tries hard, and he brought home some money, you know, for the Brownsville area last time, but we've got to get better at working with them and with our commissioners on the state level. And how we do that, I don't know. If we partner with private people and advocating for some of these things, maybe the home builders or something like that, because they could be facing a moratorium if we can't get rid of this effluent. I mean, they could say no more development. We need to make them aware of that, and maybe see if we can partner on some legislative efforts. But and I hate to say it, but our whole body politic here is failing. And I don't know if it's because there's infighting with different people and different contributors, or what the cause is, but as a community, we're not in Santa Rosa and Escambia County getting done what we should at the legislative level. And so anything that staff or fellow board members or anything can think of where we can be more effective like that, I'm open to it. I don't know what the answer is, but when I looked at that this morning and saw, all this money coming for water and sewer projects to the Panhandle, and, we're not the Panhandle that it's coming to, it made me concerned.
Thank you for that, Mr. Perkins. Ms. Campbell?
Dale, we gotta quit talking like this. Every time I think about something, Dale spits it out. I do read Florida politics, and I did see the same thing, and that's part of my reason for saying we needed an update from our people on, what are they doing for us over there in Tallahassee, and maybe we need to tell them more of what we want done, I think we gave them specifics of things that we wanted, but I do know that, like I said at the meeting the other day, 2.5 went to the Bluffs for that project. So, there's money to be had. We just need to get some money for this septic to sewer. And we have a great governor and a great body of legislators that want to do septic to sewer. We're just not getting it up here. So I agree. And I was going to say to Mr. Williams, talk to your counterpart at the county and talk to your legislator. We all need to do that. We all need to be speaking with our legislators. I try to call mine and talk to them about these things, and I know Ms. Benson does. So we all just need to do that, talk with them and, say, hey, these are our needs and what can we do to get this done. But I'm glad you brought this up at the time you did. I know that was very, a big project that Mr. McCorvey wanted to get done as well, so thank you for bringing it up.
So,
And then I believe you wanted to talk about F, and I'm thinking that it may be along the same lines. Item F.
Or golf or G, and no, it's really not as poignant. I think there was a list that was supposed to have been generated about other water quality dead end collections points from regional services on G. I just wanted access to that list.
did you want Mr. Woody to provide that,
Yeah,
or Mr. Hayden?
if Mr. Woody could provide me a copy. It was listed in the general resolution from the CAC meeting, and I overlooked it last Tuesday, but I'd just like to have access to a copy of that list of other water quality dead end and collection areas.
Okay, yeah, we can provide that list.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Ms. Campbell, did you want to move those?
Yes, I'd like to move items F and G
Okay.
for approval.
Ms. Campbell, can we go ahead and throw in and to the time meeting, because we voted through L on
Oh,
the
yeah,
last
and
meeting.
to the time meeting. Thank you.
So is that a second, Mr. Perkins? Okay.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded, number FG and,
FG and the time.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Please vote. And it passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, ma'am, it does. Thank you.
The next item is item 9A, general resolution authorizing the executive director to sign an engineering services proposal in the amount of $130,250 from Fabra Engineering and Surveying for design of a water treatment facility to replace the existing water treatment facility at the West Well, authorizing the use of funds from RW 819 West Well Water Treatment Facility Replacement. Is there a motion? Ms. Campbell?
I'm sorry. I'll move staff recommendation.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this item? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, please vote. And it passes 5-0. We come now to the budget report of fiscal year 2021 as of March 31st, 2021. Do you want to bring us up to date?
All right, good afternoon. Yes, this is the fiscal year-to-date budget report as of March 31st, which is halfway through this fiscal year. There's really not a whole lot to report on here. Everything is right along with budget. Our water and wastewater fund, the total overall is 47% of the budget. We went through 50% of the year. And sanitation is at 54% through 50% of the year. So everything's tracking where it needs to be.
Okay, great. Anyone have any questions? Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Just a quick question. Explain to me how to place a project on the capital improvement projects list. How do you get on that list? How do you determine capital improvement projects?
I can simplify that for him.
Okay.
You get
Mr.
3
Perkins.
votes. That's basically what you do. So we look at that list, we get where the lines are. If you got a project you care about, and that's the bottom line. Staff's gonna recommend certain things, and they're gonna be things that might technically make more sense. But when it comes down to brass tacks, we have to look at how much we're gonna fund, how far down or up the line is gonna be, and then that one project that I care about, I gotta make sure that's above the line. So I might have to swap, trade, convince, cajole, do whatever, or it may just fall there naturally, with the staff recommendation. Be a good idea to talk to staff and say, hey, this is important to me, can we get it in there, beforehand? And you might, because I think you have a lot better chance of getting something approved if staff is saying, hey, yes, this is necessary, we need it, the system needs it, it's above the line for us. It's easier to get it done like that than it is to have to bring one up from under the line, or to get your fellow board members to make a higher rate increase to move the line down further. So that's basically, what it takes.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, it comes down to, that list includes needs that are pressing that you just can't not do. And then we get down to the wants, and somewhere we draw that line. And it's something we discuss at length during the budget process.
Yeah, I'd try to stay out of the prioritization business. I just tell them how much
Trying to
money
come
we
to your
have.
rescue there.
And they battle out the priorities.
And Mr. Woody, did you want to add something?
Yeah, Justin was worried about being put on the spot there. Clearly, admittedly, the 90+% come from staff recommendations for various reasons. The real issue is the prioritization of those. We'll give you reasoning and justification and objective criteria to help allow you to make an informed decision, and we'll emphasize the ones that we think that are of most importance for public health and safety, welfare, those types of things. And then close behind that are going to be efficiency types of projects and those sorts of things. And then competing with that are things that we get recommended from the board themselves. And then in the end, it all comes down to priority based on objective criteria and the political process of deciding what needs to be done to meet constituent needs as well.
Thank you for the report. We will move now to the executive director's report. So you're recognized, Mr. Woody.
I have 3 things I'd like to briefly touch on. I've shared some information in the board report a couple weeks now about ongoing discussions with regarding the downtown storage tank. As you know, we've had under contract a piece of property on Barrancas that is proposed for construction of a 6 to 10 million gallon ground storage tank for excess flows from the wastewater collection system during major wet weather events. The purpose of that is to essentially provide a wide spot in the road, so to speak, to help prevent surcharging of the system that could cause wastewater backups in homes or overflows, SSOs of various sorts in the collection system. That is one project along with a whole list of several others that are on our consent decree. So we began that process identifying property, identified the Barrancas property as a good alternative for us to consider, and as that went forward, the city of Pensacola identified that they had concerns about that location. They had a Main Street corridor plan and a planning and zoning overlay district that was in that immediate area, both of which this tank would have either conflicted with or had impacts on. So they encouraged us to consider some additional sites, and we did that. Besides evaluating those additional sites for the same objective criteria that we used to originally point to the possibility of the Barrancas site, we also talked about, brainstormed about other creative ways to avoid maybe even having a tank at all, or at least reducing its size. That credit goes to wonderful staff that really was receptive not only to the concerns of the city of Pensacola, but trying to address the root problem, and that is the water that gets in the system in the first place. That best way to address it is to keep it out of the system in the first place. And one of the worst sources of inflow and infiltration really is in the private sewer lateral, which is between the building or the home and the connection with our system. Now, we have some programs and some projects that we've been doing to address a portion of that system, pretty much from the right-of-way line to our connection. But really, we have no authority or rights to deal with that portion of the line from the right-of-way back to the house. And that will continue to be a problem and continue to be a major source of inflow and infiltration. So I say all that to come around to the point that as a part of the creative brainstorming on ways to either put this tank somewhere else, reduce its size, or maybe even avoid having to build it at all, staff presented to the city of Pensacola the idea that we might partner with them and create a private sewer lateral inspection program to take a look at that portion of the private sewer lateral between the building and the right-of-way line on a periodic basis, find problems, have those required to be fixed or replaced depending on the scope of in need of individual sewer line. And we've done some modeling to see what the impacts of that proactive policy would be. And much to our excitement, we believe that a combination of the use of the tanks that we already have, plus this program over time, could maybe either severely reduce the size of the tank, if not completely remove the need for the tank. So that has been presented at City of Pensacola. They have been receptive so far. We've presented them draft ordinances on what those kinds of programs look like by other communities that have done that. Of course, we'll have to come up with a program that fits our character, our values, our needs, and priorities, so it won't be just a rubber stamp. It'll have to go through a policy process. But we're very optimistic about that program going forward. We have presented it to the FDEP as well to be sure that we had some support from them, just as a concept, and they were supportive as well. So given that we were up against a upcoming deadline for making a decision on the Barrancas property, we had that property under contract, we were comfortable enough with the positive feedback we were getting in writing from the city of Pensacola to go ahead and release that property. So that property is no longer under contract at present, and we are going to continue our work with the city of Pensacola to develop this private sewer inspection lateral program. And the basic 2 or 3 points associated with that program are that if approved as proposed, it would require that whenever a property changes hands, is sold to a new owner, or there's a major change of use, that portion of that private sewer lateral would need to be inspected. And if it comes out fine, then wonderful, you get a certificate, you don't have to get inspected again for an extended period of time. If there is a defect, that defect would need to be repaired. If it's in really deplorable condition, say or maybe it's made out of clay because of its age, 3-foot joints, et cetera, then it might need to be lined or otherwise replaced. We've believed that would be less of a strain and stress on a property owner if it was happening as a part of a sales transaction than to have that be a financial burden during their ownership. So that is the program that we're going to try forward in lieu of a downtown storage tank.
And Mr. Woody, I just think the public needs to understand what a big damn deal this is. The last administration was pushing this down our throats and said, we have to have it, there's no alternative. And none of us wanted a big eyesore at the gateway to downtown. We worked hard, many of us, to eliminate an eyesore downtown, and then to create another one was against everything we believed in. But instead of saying you have to have it because of DEP, consent order, and all of these things, you and Mr. Beasley both said, let's get creative. Let's figure out how we can deal with storm or the possibility of surges and backups and those things without creating an ugly tank. And it's to your credit that you came up with this program. Now, the last thing I want to do is create another backflow preventer program where we have all kinds of inspections. But I think in this case, if we have some responsibility at the individual lines to prevent the need for the whole community to be penalized by this ugly thing, I think it's done its job. And I think it underscores the tone that has come to this to this body in the last 2 years through Mr. Beasley and yourself. So I thank you for this. Ms. Campbell.
So how will that be triggered? Whose responsibility will it be to order the inspection on a sale?
The mechanics of that are going to be part of the policy development.
Okay.
But it is common in other communities that it be a certificate that has to be submitted and filed prior to the closure on the property. Whether that's done as a requirement for closure or funds are set aside through escrow and that property closes, that's subject to some negotiation. But in the end, it would have to be inspected to either show a clean bill of health or any found defects to be repaired.
I would strongly encourage us to bring to the table the Pensacola Association of Realtors when we do this policy, because nobody, and some of the industry leaders in the closing end of it, because nobody knows better than them, how to make something like that work. Because I know we had, at one time, we had a septic tank inspection, and I think the happiest day of everybody's life was when Clay Ingram repealed that statewide, inspection, or repealed it here, so we wouldn't have to do that now. I don't. And I wonder how we are going to have the records to know which lines are good and which are not. Are we going to be the keeper of the records for that? And
while those portions of the lateral system aren't ours to own and maintain, I think it would be to our advantage to have that information in terms of reporting for the FDEP and part of our I&I program. So I'm sure that would be a strong negotiating point. I think we'd like to know the statistics on it, but it is a plumbing inspection effort, so
Right.
that part really would be managed by the city of
Yeah,
Pensacola.
I'm just wondering how that they would know. It just sounds like a very big policy to put together. So it'll be interesting to watch.
It has some sharp edges.
Yeah, very sharp. Very sharp edges I see on that one. Okay, thank you. Sounds good, though.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Did you want to continue, Mr. Woody?
Yes, that was item number one. I have two other brief ones. Coming in the board report later this week, you will find a brief notice of an award for, my recommendation for an award for an emergency purchase for repairs associated with the Chimney Pines lift station. That's one of our lift stations that was damaged during Hurricane Sally. While we have a couple different procurements going out, this one is just barely over the 50,000 mark. Because of the timing of when it comes in, it would help us marry up this particular portion of the purchase of basic equipment with some of the electrical work and prevent about a 5 or 6 week delay on the project. We'd like to have all that come in at the same time. So based on that, I've told staff to go ahead and proceed with that project. I'll have more detail in the board report. And then lastly, as you know, the City of Pensacola's mask ordinance did conclude last Thursday. However, the CDC is still recommending that masks be worn in public meetings, public places. We're continuing to get additional feedback from CDC. Our own particular county is a little bit on the high side in terms of continued transmission of COVID. So it would be my recommendation or intention to go ahead and continue to require masks in public spaces in these buildings. I've only taken it off so I can be heard through the microphone at the moment. At least through the balance of the month of May. We'll take a look at it on a month-to-month basis unless there's clearer direction or preference otherwise. And that's my last comment.
Thank you, Mr. Woody. And the next is the attorney's report. Mr. Beasley?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I have no report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We come now to unfinished business. Item A is the ECUA Citizens Advisory Committee District 4 seat vacancy. Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have provided a resume and would like to nominate Ms. Laurie Murphy to serve on the Citizen Advisory Committee. I don't know if you all may know her. She's very active in environmental protection and protection of our surface waters and stuff, and has a great deal of knowledge and some pretty good connections with the city of Pensacola and some people in Tallahassee, and so she may be a good resource for us.
Do we need to vote on that now, Mr. Woody? I assume we do.
Certainly a preference, but sooner she's able to fill that position.
Yeah. Do we have a motion, Ms. Campbell?
Yeah, I happily make a motion that we accept Laurie Murphy. She's be wonderful for our CAC.
Yeah. Mr. Williams?
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you for bringing her forward, Mr. Perkins. Please vote. And it passes 5-0. Please invite her to our next meeting, Mr. Perkins.
Could we ask staff to provide her that CIP list and the packet from our last CAC that she'll have time to read up and be prepared at the next advisory committee meeting, please?
Will do.
Good, thank you. Okay, the next item is 13B, an update on Carondelet Drive. Ms. Campbell, that was your item. Mr. Hayden?
I can answer some of the questions, and I'd like to ask maybe if Brian Reed, if I'm not answering everything to the full extent, please fill in the gaps. The Carondelet, I'm going to call it problem, has been around for quite some time. I want to say since probably before 2015, 2016, when an issue was brought to my attention, we had staff go out to the field, do some smoke testing and investigation of the area that was causing some some sanitary sewer backups and overflows in the area. Much of the problem stems from, lack of adequate stormwater conveyance systems out there. It's a pretty flat area. The groundwater table is essentially at grade in some areas of the Carondelet area sewer basin. The groundwater is bubbling up from the ground and seeping out into the streets. So we did some smoke testing back in 2015, 2016. We found several issues that we addressed. A lot of it was sewer cleanout caps. It's basically a 4-inch diameter cap that was off in some cases. In some cases, they were mowed over, and so there's a little square nut on the top of the cap. When it gets mowed over, it drains the stormwater. I think one of the biggest finds that we had at that time was a manhole that was hit by a bush hog or a tractor, mowing an easement. And this particular manhole was beside a stormwater creek. So it's a no-brainer when the creek rose and got into the manhole. That created some problems for us. So I thought we had the problem figured out back then, and hadn't heard too much more about it. I mean, it's an old system, so like everywhere else around Escambia County, and it's an older sewer system, we do have a little bit of an inflow and infiltration problem. So fast forward to recently, where I think Hurricane Sally, a customer had a backup in her home. It was overflowing in the street. It backed up in the customer's home, very unfortunately. So we've went out, Regional Services have went out and done some smoke testing in the area to find any major, problems, and they have found some. I think the biggest problem they found was on private property, and essentially it's an open-ended 8-inch diameter pipe that when stormwater runs through over the property, it just goes right into this pipe. And so we contacted the property owner. They're going to address it. We're working with them now to get it addressed, and as we find some other areas, we will get them taken care of. I need to add too that the system, at least half of it was clay. Back in 2015, 2016, we did rehabilitate most of the system. I think there are a couple of pipes out there now that are remaining to be done. Some of it's blocked access by a sidewalk that's covering one of our manholes, so we couldn't access it. We're working with the property owner, we're working with the property owner to get access to our manhole so we can then line the pipes. We have not, to really affect resolution, it needs to be a comprehensive effort. By that, I mean it needs to be manholes, it needs to be main lines, and it needs to be laterals. Laterals is done as a part of the last step of the process. We have not done those. Those are very expensive to do, and we just, we're going to try and fix what we can now and determine whether we need to move into the lateral lining phase. But like the other parts of Pensacola, there's such a big need for lateral lining. If we can't find some of these problems and fix them and resolve the issue, then we're going to have to look at lateral lining. And lastly, I know we discussed the private side lateral issue. I can't stress enough how big of a problem that is for us. We don't have really any control over what goes on private property. So if we can develop a policy, work with the city, work with the county to develop a policy to get something like this implemented, that's going to go leaps and bounds towards fixing the problem in the future. I'm going to say this, one thing I like to bring to residents' attention is that little 4-inch cleanout cap, if you take that one cap off and you have ankle-deep water surrounding that area, that's almost 100 gallons a minute. 3 people or 3 homes is all it takes to inundate our sewer system, to back it up and possibly cause a lift station to overflow. 3 people out of hundreds, 3 people out of 1,000 or so that are connected to some lift stations. That's all it takes to overflow our sewer system. We cannot construct lift stations big enough to handle that level of I&I. So we have to look at doing these private side programs, or we're going to be chasing our tails. So that's a big, long-winded answer to Carondelet. The problem's big. There are a lot of clay laterals that we need to address, and then hopefully we'll get the problem solved.
Yeah, I know the area's old, and, but I mean, we've been really working on this for a long time, so I'd really like to keep up with the progress, if you would, keep me up to date, and keep the citizens, if we can keep those citizens up to date on what's going on. I think just knowing that we're working on it, makes them feel better. Did we find these 4-inch caps off in that subdivision area?
We found the caps in this sewer basin. So when we do the inspection, smoke testing, we find these caps all over the place. And it's sporadic. It's not all in one location. It's throughout the sewer basin. And they all flow to this one lift station. When the system backs up, inundates the lift station, it just backs up into the lowest point, which is that on the Carondelet area.
So if I say this once a week, I say it 100 times a week, education is the key to success. Are we getting that word out about those caps to the homeowners to not remove them? Because, I mean, maybe that's something that we need. Do we put that, Natalie, in our? Okay, yeah, we need to put that in our report, our letter that goes out to them, add it to our, commercials on television, get 850 to do a show on it. I mean, there's so many ways now to get information out to people that I think we're still missing the boat on the information highway. We need that information out so that nobody releases. You said 3 of those caps can inundate our system?
Yes, ma'am.
We need people to know so they don't remove those caps. And I think what happens in a lot of these places, I just think, they might remove those caps to alleviate some of that water in their yard. Now, look at Brian. Yeah. I wouldn't know any different. I have this lady, Miss James, that lives over off of Highway 98, and every time it rains, she has not 4 inches, but probably 14 inches in her yard. And it's a state problem and a county problem on drainage. She knows it, they know it, it's not been fixed. But I guarantee you, people in that area, if they thought they could take a cap off and drain their yard for a little while, they would do it, and it would go into our system. So if that's not good for our system, we really have to get that word out to the people. And thank you. I'm gonna talk to the folks at Carondelet and let them know not to do that, whatever they do, and that we are working on it. And if we need to line those laterals, this might be one of the first places to do it, in my mind. Thank you so much for that update. I appreciate it.
The only thing I worry about getting the word out is there may be people out there who hadn't thought about that for draining their yard, Seriously, it might be a problem.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hayden. The next item is also yours, Ms. Campbell, update from the lobbyists.
I just would like to have something from our lobbyists telling us what they're doing for us over there, so.
Mr. Wood,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Wood.
My most recent conversation with Andy Palmer last week was on the topic of Brownsfield Sewer and some other applications that we had put in hopes of having our local delegation support essentially an earmark for a particular project for funding. As of last week, the concept that was being floated around and strongly considered was, instead of issuing funding approvals for individual small projects based on legislators' ask, to instead roll those together, send that to the FDEP. The state of Florida received a pretty good-sized, several $100 million package of funds, and almost 300 million of that has been allocated for infrastructure projects. So the positive about that is because that is such a larger sum of money than probably would have otherwise been allocated, there's a possibility that we could maybe get a couple of our projects funded at a higher level or higher rate, be able to improve the scope of the project. The negative is going through the FDEP instead of through the legislature means we have to compete for those. And it's not just a direct earmark, so to speak. So it's kind of a two-edged sword.
Can we, as board members?
That hasn't been decided yet, but that's what was being discussed and submitted to the Budget Committee.
So can we, as board members, do anything there to help, like talk to FDEP or legislators?
At this point, the big question is, are they going to send it all to FDEP versus allocate it through a legislative process? This late in the game, goodness, this Friday is the end of the, so my expectation is it'll go to FDEP. Their process will be much more objective.
Grant-like?
Yeah.
Okay. And do we have someone on staff writing grants?
We have a couple of different, for the most part, we've only got, 3 different basic functions. So we have folks within each of those divisions who are always looking for those grant opportunities, and typically are the ones who submit the grant forms on the water side and on the wastewater side. A lot of that burden often comes to engineering for the wastewater, and pretty much Tom and his staff do it on the water side.
Okay, thank you.
Does that conclude that item? Okay. We come now, by the way, I like the idea of FDEP doing this. To some extent, we got off on the wrong foot with our legislative delegation, and I don't know that we're still walking in tandem, so I don't sense that they are pulling for us at this point, and I'd like to repair that, but meanwhile, I like the idea that FDEP, who can recognize the merits of some of these things, might be in a better position to objectively recommend it. Okay, we come now to new business, and I brought up the South Bay Homeowners Association. I've gotten communications. Have you all gotten communications from these people as well? Okay, it's
Several,
Yeah,
and it's in my district, so
yeah.
I'm glad you.
It's a subdivision that borders on Blue Angel Parkway, and I guess a shopping center has been permitted at the entrance, and they're very concerned about the impact on their neighborhood. And they're writing to us about this, and I'm not sure that we issue permits, but I don't know that we have any ability to determine the shape of what's going on in that corner. That's more a county function. Are you familiar with this, Mr. Woody?
Stacy and I have been in communication with South Bay Homeowners Association. We've offered to come to their meeting and talk to them on it, so I'm sure Stacy can talk. I don't think that we've been asked about this yet, or we haven't last time I spoke to Stacy.
We
Don't have
finally
plans.
received we finally received an application for that developer, proposed development right there at the intersection of Blue Angel Parkway and Highway 98. We've reviewed their proposed wastewater flow against the capacity in the lift station. The lift station does have hydraulic capacity there, and that's the extent of where we are right now. Some of the residents there just do not believe that the lift station has capacity, but I think their concerns were more centered around odor issues than anything.
Ms. Campbell?
Yeah, I think they relate the odor at the lift station to that it's over capacity. And what it is, it's the air release valve that's releasing the gases. And so I will say, I've been to that subdivision when it's Perdido Key is full and, things are flowing full force down Blue Angel, and it does reek. But I know that Jerry's been working on different mediums and scrubbers and trying to keep the odor under control, and I thought he had everything under control because I I have not received a call about the odors, nor when I talked to Stacy, he hadn't either, since 2016. So I was under 2016 or 17, but I was under the impression that we had the odor under control. But when I've got a couple of letters here
Yeah.
right now that say that odor is not under control. So maybe if we work harder on the odor, then. And will the more capacity cause the odor to be worse?
May I respond, Judge? I don't want to speak for Jerry or lift stations, but I'm aware that we do have what we call an odor log. It tracks the components that make up the odor, and we have not seen an increase, or really it's been pretty close to zero, and it's located right there at the vent of the, very close to the vent of the lift station. Jerry can, tell you more about that. Really the amount of wastewater coming into the lift station versus what's going out, that doesn't really have much bearing on the odors of the lift station. Without going too, I don't want to get too long-winded, but it sounds kind of funny, but really the age of the sewage coming into the lift station is what really makes a difference. The longer it sits in the pipe, the longer it takes it to get to us. It becomes septic and it's more smelly. It's the best way I can put it. So it's not necessarily what's coming, the volume that's coming to us. It's the age of it that's coming to us more than anything, and what makes up that wastewater stream. What is being proposed? It's a shopping center. It's very nearby, so hate to think of sewage as being fresh, but this would be as fresh as it gets because it's just within 500 feet of the lift station site, and that's really all there is to it. It's residential domestic waste. It's not industrial waste. So.
And I really think they have a lot of concerns. We're gonna go and talk with them, but I think a lot of their concerns are stormwater as well, because, everybody sees what's going on right now with some of these subdivisions that are being built with stormwater, and they just don't want that happening to their subdivision, and I totally understand that. The reason I got involved in politics was because they were draining into my lakes at Grand Lagoon from Gulf Beach Highway, so I feel these people, and I'm gonna go talk to them and assure them that we're not gonna add to their odor, and if the capacity is there, I don't want them, I don't want ECUA to have to build a new lift station. But I think that's the problem, is that they think that more sewer going through there is gonna make it smell worse at their subdivision. So if we work on the odor on our part, I think that will be something we can do, but I don't know about stormwater, what they're gonna do. And I feel their pain on stormwater. I wouldn't, we live in the swamp on the west side.
So there are really three issues. There's the issue, there's a zoning issue. I think they probably don't want that shopping center
Right,
at the entrance,
right.
which we have no purview over.
No purview.
And then there's a capacity issue on our system, and that's pretty black and white measurable. There's not a lot of subjectivity in doing that. And then the third issue is abating odors by our staff. And I guess we need to be sure that staff, particularly when they're highly sensitive and when they see something that they're concerned about, that we need to do as much as we can to abate those odors. I remember Pat Byrne always said, yeah, we do the best we can with what you send us. But anyway, we appreciate what you're doing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, and also on that one, the developer put the lift station at the entrance to the subdivision, which was very strange to me. Usually they put it way back in the back, and only, way back off the beaten track, and only a few houses around it. But these poor people, every time they come and go to their subdivision, they have to go by the lift station. So that's unfortunate, and I don't think there's anything we could do about that now. Thank you, Stacy, and thank you for going to the meeting with me.
The next item is 14B, intern from UWF. That's yours, Ms. Campbell.
I knew that we had talked about interns at UWF before, and I had a young man call me today, so I'll get with you afterwards, Mr. Woody. His name is Stephen Terry. He's in public administration at UWF. Wanted to talk to me about the quality of our water being poor and no capital improvement budget. And so I told him, you called me at the perfect time. We're getting ready to do a $50 million capital improvement budget, and I'd love you to get in the middle of it with us, and I'd love you to talk to Mr. Woody and, see the whole, nothing better than, a UWF student out there telling all those students how great we are. So I'm gonna get you his number and let him come out and go with Dawn to the plant and see everything and go do a stellar report on the ECUA at UWF. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. I have no more new business. Next is board communications. Seeing none, we come to our next open forum, and I have no pink slips. Is there anyone who wishes to address us? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.